You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darragh O'Connor on the...
Welcome to a very special tribute show / Wrestling Rewind. Let us take a trip down memory lane to a few years ago when myself and Marcus Green of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Hi Marcus, how are you?
Good, glad to be here.
Good. We used to review religiously every Impact Wrestling show until it got far too much for us because they were dreadful and they were truly awful. And so we actually encouraged other people to start a podcast to look at mainstream American wrestling. So we didn't have to anymore. And the current leader of the ship is Mr. Darragh O'Connor. Hi, Darragh.
Ahoy.
Yeah. And he is come here to jointly present this show with us about Slammiversary by Impact Wrestling. Because John Dinsdale, hey, John.
Hello.
Suggested that we do this show this week. So we're going to have a 4-way review of Slammiversary, which is something we haven't done for quite a while. And I suppose we best really look at where the company is at and their opinions on Impact Wrestling before we get started. Marcus, you have been the longest standing Impact viewer along with me on this show. So where do you think the company is currently at before we go into Slammiversary?
Well, certainly it's better than it's been in regimes past. I'll say that. I feel good where it's going, where it's at right now. It feels like it has some momentum building. A lot of interesting points, certain things stirring around in all the divisions: tag, women's, X division, and obviously everything's swirling around the world right now. World title anyway. But I like where it's going, specifically with potential collaborations and such. So. Like I said, this regime, more than most, has been more consistent for me personally. And between the talent that's come back, new talent that's come in, and potential talent that's about to come in, I think they're doing a lot of stuff right, far more than they've done in the past. So.
Okay then, Darragh, you are a long-time Impact Wrestling fan. Where do you think the company is at the moment?
Yeah, like you guys. I in for different life was reviewing Impact pretty religiously, and it got terrible and it was really, really bad. So yeah, I think that is kind of like the Alcoholics Anonymous story for most Impact fans, where it's like, yeah, we just couldn't do it anymore. But ever since Anthem took over and they kind of got their stuff together, it's been really good. Like on the Rewind last year when the pandemic was deep, we even said it's the best wrestling show going, for just as a pure wrestling show. And I would still say that, even though the fans are back and it's, a lot of the guys on the show look homeless. So it's just weird. They look really homeless. But it's still a really good show, and I think there's a lot there with collaborations and the actual in-ring product. It's great. It is very much an indie show now. Like really is an indie show, but it's an enjoyable indie show, and he found their niche. So I would say, we're in for a good discussion today because this was actually a very good show.
Okay then, and finally, the man that brought all four of us to this particular dance, John. Where are you thinking Impact is at right now?
See, Impact is so much different to when I watched it because it was one of the sort of programs that brought me back into wrestling because TNA used to be on like Bravo, and since WWE was
Yeah.
unwatchable anymore, I used to watch like the really violent stuff from that. So you'd have like Elevation X matches, fish market street fights, barbed wire massacres, and whilst most of that's kind of by the wayside, you still get the odd barbed wire massacre. It's really fun to watch. Like I saw some of the god awful Dixie Carter stuff. I saw some of the god awful stuff from a few years back, and so I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna leave that. But I don't know, as everyone seems to think, like with Anthem coming in, it's sort of they've righted the ship a bit. There's new talent coming in, old talent coming in, people continuously sort of cycling, there's partnerships. It's all going quite well for Impact now, and it's rather fun to watch.
I think, much like Ring of Honor, having a parent company means they will never lose money. And that has given them the freedom to be creative and sign some people. And they've done a lot with the talent that they've picked up from other people in other places. They have got rid of a lot of deadwood in the last couple of years who were particularly awful for their reputation. And there's still a bit of that kicking around in the company, as I'm sure we'll no doubt discuss. But overall, there is a lot more said to be good about Impact Wrestling than there is bad at the moment. And yeah, so let's just move on to the actual show. The actual show started with a dark match, which was Decay, Havoc, and Rosemary. They defeated Fire and Flavor, Kira Hogan, and Tasha Steelz after their impressive inaugural Knockouts Tag Team title run. I'm sure this had absolutely nothing at all to do with the fact that Kira Hogan's contract ran out the following day. So they have had something to do with it. Any thoughts on this particular matchup, guys? Because it was a dark matchup. I'm not sure if all of you've seen it.
It was on the pre-show.
Yeah.
So
What did you think of it, John?
Yeah, it was fine. I love Decay because Rosemary is one of my favorite wrestlers in the company. Havoc's gotten so much better and is a total monster, and Fire and Flavor are just really damn good at what they do. It was a nice little sort of warm up for the fans. In fact, it was the first chance we got to see the fans back. And yeah, they weren't dicks. It was just fun.
I think so as well. I mean, I love Fire and Flavor. I'm kind of sad to see them lose the tag team titles, but I understand it's not best practice to have a championship on a wrestler you may not be signing in the next couple of days. So these are the way things are, I suppose. Anyone else got anything to say on Fire and Flavor as they, are forcibly broken up for the company? Because they've been really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agree with you fellas, man. I'm a huge fan of Fire and Flavor. I think putting them together was brilliant. And like Don, it kind of sucks to see them, drop them tags. I wanted them to continue their run because I just think, even without the tags, they were brilliant. But having them just added to the bravado. But on the other side, I can't be mad at Decay. I love Decay. I love the addition of Black Taurus. I think he's been really a great, muscle addition for them. He's so dynamic in the ring, and Crazy Steve's upped his game. Rosemary has always been a gem. Haven't always been the biggest fan of Havoc, but like John said, she has improved, and I think she's been a unique and interesting addition to tag with Rosemary, considering the fact that she was, having a real interesting situation going on with Taya. Well, I thought they vibed real good, but obviously they had to switch and make another move. And I think with the history of everything that's happened with those characters involving Sinister James Mitchell or whatever, I just think that fits and makes sense. For me, I liked the match. I thought it was good. I thought it should have actually replaced another match that we'll get to, specifically because it was a title match. But I think the most disappointing thing for me was the news that we found out later about Kira, which is disappointing, but hey, it happened. So, you kind of got to roll with the punches. And like I said, I can't be mad at a Decay victory because that faction has been far more than I think it ever, was planned to be. So,
Darragh, have you got anything to add?
I actually didn't watch the pre-show there, but I just had a little look at it there as you guys were talking. Yeah, it seemed like a fun match. I really like Havoc and Rosemary as performers, but yeah, they need They need performers like that to have the belts. To say it's a safe bet to put them on. You can market them quite well, and they're not amazing in the ring, but they're not terrible either. The match itself was alright. It was crazy to see Tombstone Pole Driver. Like anytime you see one on like mainstream American wrestling, even though it is an indie promotion in a lot of ways. Every time you see it, you're like, oh, there it is. So it was a cool way to see it to end off the match, and fair play to Havoc and Rosemary for picking up the win and the belts. It should. Here's the thing: this should have been on the main card. I don't know why it wasn't. Can I just say that?
No.
That was ridiculous that it wasn't. That was a poor move.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's like you put your title matches on the main card.
Yeah, like seriously, that's something the big evil WWE do as well. It's like, stop doing that. Belt should always be on the main card. The only thing that shouldn't be on the main card is Cody Rhodes.
Oh yes, Darragh does not like Cody Rhodes. John Marcus, I'm pretty sure you're aware of that by now. But we'll move on to the second match, the opener of the actual pay-per-view, which was an Ultimate X match for the Impact X Division Championship. It lasted 15 minutes and 45 seconds and was won by Josh Alexander, who defeated Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Pete Williams, Rohit Raju, and Trey Miguel. This is perhaps one of the most talented X divisions we've had for quite some time, and it kind of shows off in this match. I'm not a big fan of multi-man matches, so people who've listened to me will know, but this did exactly what an X division match would do. It made you go, ooh, it made you go, ah. There was lots of big spots and lots of big bumps, and this did what it said on the tin and achieved a result. It got Josh Alexander over as an X division champion, because you really say you're a dominant X division champion if you haven't done the Ultimate X division match. John, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this?
This was incredible. Like, I always love Ultimate X matches, and I was really pulling for Josh Alexander in this match. I think his reign's been awesome, and I'm just glad to see him finally get the run he deserves. And yeah, just the amount of talent in this match is incredible. The amount of spots was awesome. There are so many gifable or just like picturable moments without any of them feeling forced. You just sort of look at them and you're like, of course they did something like this. And I love the sort of little twist ending they pulled with Ace Austin, because I genuinely thought you might steal it at the end there, which would have been a net win for me because I love Ace Austin as well. There's just so much to enjoy in this match, and it was the perfect way to open the show because it's chaotic. And yeah, just absolutely awesome to watch.
Yeah, it was fun. I have to say that it was fun. And yeah, my personal favorite would be Pete Williams' Super Destroyer, just because it's a super Canadian destroyer. But Super Destroyer sounds better because that was the name of a British wrestler whose name escapes me now. Pete Roberts, Super Destroyer Pete Roberts. Giant Baba's greatest naming creation, in my opinion. But anywho, Marcus, what were your thoughts on Ultimate X?
Man, this was a thrill ride from start to finish. I've been continuously amazed, particularly with this particular group of like you said, James, this X Division. Because we know these guys are professionals, and this has been a long-standing. This is a pillar in the company, this match, and obviously the division itself. But I've been continuously amazed at just how this particular regime have made matches like this look effortless. Because obviously, like I said, we know they're professionals, but we have seen all those reverse battle royals and all these other match concepts that TNA has had in their storied history. And they have been, pardon my French, utter clusterfucks. But
yes,
these showings with these particular men, no matter how many different scenarios they've been put in, whether it been Ultimate X or just 6-man or whatever have you, they've made them look effortless. And it's I never get tired of seeing it. And all these guys are absolute studs. I'm particular fans of Chris Bay, Rohit, and Trey, but definitely of Josh, who could have really, in the old regime, kind of got left as nothing but fodder in the wake of the North no longer being a thing. But he's stepped up in a major way and been an absolute stud with that championship, and really stepped up and told the company, like, look, until y'all get that strap back on somebody who actually works for this company, I'm the guy. So he's absolutely showing that now. And this was a show stealing match. Like, this was a follow this match to kick off the night. So
yeah, I like the fact that Josh Alexander has quietly turned face, seemingly without anyone noticing. Also, Rohit Raju is a guy who wants to win wrestling matches, and in this division, you so rarely get that. You have people talking about how great they are and how great performances they are, and Rohit Raju doesn't care. He just wants to win, which is kind of the point, and I like that a lot. He is sneaky, but he's trying to win, and people seem to forget that in a division that's like premeditated on excellence in their matches. It's just a bit strange that people don't like go out all for the win all the time. And that's the bit that makes me smile about it. Darragh, what are your thoughts on this match?
Oh man, this was great. I love Canadian Destroyers, so the way this match ended was amazing. But yeah, look, a couple of things on this. There's some. It's overall positive. So this is the way TNA Impact shows should always open. They should always open with a multi-man spot jumpy jump flip match. Always. It's just the way that Impact is supposed to be booked. And
it's been that way since time immemorial.
Oh, absolutely, and it should never change. Bring out the young fellas, let them jump around. Don't sell anything; it'll be grand. Have a good time. And that's the way it should be. And Ultimate X is one of the main things that put Impact on the map. So this was great. It was a brilliant way to to have the fans there and let them scream and shout. It was great. The only thing about it is Petey Williams is fantastic, but he's always been fantastic. I'm glad to see Josh Alexander won. I think that was the right call. The only thing about it is the negative side of this is a lot of these lads, it's still the way it is with the X division, as a whole. What's the nice way to say it? They kind of come off like jobbers. Even though they're not, there's no real kind of importance in it. By putting them on first, it's like they're never going to go higher in this. And we've talked about it on the show, particularly when we look at WCW shows, where the cruiserweights will go in and steal the show, but then you kind of forget about it. And the danger of doing it this way is you can forget about it. Now, that's one thing that this regime could work on. They could actually try and build these up a little bit more than just going out and doing the flips, because they're supposed to mean something. And that's the only thing that I would say. There's some matches on the show that didn't deserve a slot on their WrestleMania SummerSlam equivalent show. This definitely did, and I just wish these guys were given a bit more of a big fight feel, because it was amazing. It was a show-stealing match. But at the end of the day, if you're talking to an average wrestling fan, they're probably not going to know who Chris Bay or Trey Miguel is. So that's the only negative. It's not a negative. It's just something to be aware of, because it's a shame. All these guys are great. It's a shame that if they do get lost in the shuffle, that's...
See, that's the thing, isn't it? Especially when you're pushing your champion, Josh Alexander, against Kenny Omega next.
Yes. That's it.
See that? Yeah,
exactly.
Which I think is the right thing to do, because he's the only guy on the men's roster I'd want to see wrestle Kenny Omega, because he's the guy they're building up. But if he's only beaten 5 other people in the opening match, there's a credibility issue there.
There is, and it's particularly bringing in some of the ex-WWE guys. This is what happens. They kind of get lost in the. Oh well, you weren't in WWE, but here's Big Kaz. Okay, it's just kind of it's just kind of something that when I see it happen, I'm like, oh, we've been here before. I'm sure everyone on this show now is like, yeah, we've seen this before. So it's just one thing that I will be watching. And if it creeps into it too much, it's same mistakes be made again.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this is the thing. Is this next match doesn't suffer from it because it's its own thing. But other matches on this card could have been longer and could have been shorter depending on what they were trying to do. But we'll talk about that when we get to them. Everyone's had their go on that one, haven't they? So let's move on to the next match. Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green defeated Brian Myers and Daniil Dashwood in 6 minutes and 5 seconds in a perfectly fun intergender wrestling match. What was bizarre about this is it's the most WWE-ish match you can possibly think of, involving a Ring of Honor wrestler who can't wrestle in Ring of Honor because she has a broken arm but was apparently cleared to wrestle for Impact, which is a bit weird. We'll start with Marcus. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this was the exact match I said shouldn't have been on the show. For me, just like I definitely respect everybody in this match and have seen them in all different forms, variations, but it did nothing for me. Um, it's cool to see Chelsea Green having some more flexibility in her career, but she really just that doesn't move me at all. Brian Myers has been more entertaining since adding Sam Beal. That's about it. And Tennille and Caleb kind of just been floating around. And obviously Cardona is getting an elevated taste of violence elsewhere. But yeah, I didn't need to. Just needing to be on the show for me. It's cool. I mean, it's cool that again we seen another wrestling couple, and is even I guess more interesting that they were facing Cardona's ex, and also in the interim. But that was about all the intrigue I got out of it. So
Yeah, it does. It does feel like Matt Cardona and Brian Myers have been wrestling each other for about 4 years. I maybe that's just me, but they have been feuding since they both came back to Impact Wrestling, and they came back to Impact Wrestling a year ago. So it seems like a very, very long time. It's like every time I would turn on Impact, and I don't watch every week, I watch every couple of weeks, and now there's Matt Cardona and Brian Myers again. In variations of matches that they've had. But I think the actual match itself, was nothing wrong with it. Like the nuts and bolts bit were fine. Just a bit odd in placement and stuff. Darragh, what are your thoughts on this?
It had Emma in it. Come on. Brilliant.
Tennille Dashwood. She hasn't been Emma for like 5 years, dude.
Still Emma to me. I know. I the Neil Dashwood, anytime she's there, it's great. But to be fair, there was no real reason for this to be on like the second biggest pay-per-view of the year for them. Nothing was achieved. It just kind of happened. It was just like, all right, that's fair enough. Second Canadian Destroyer though, that was cool.
Yes.
Well, it's just like, all right, fair enough. This is the problem when they start going back to the well too much. It loses any kind of uniqueness. We've seen variations of this happen before, and there was no stakes to it. It was something that if you weren't watching the show or aware of it, you'd be confused about if it was. And then when you have to bring real world stuff into a wrestling show when it's not really the point of it. It should just stand by itself. You can just see to move it off. Like we could have had anything else here, but I think all the I like everyone involved in the match. Don't get me wrong, but there was a better way to use all of them, and this just wasn't it.
I'll like shout out to Caleb Connolly, who's managed to stay employed in professional wrestling for a very long time as the ultimate Swiss Army knife of character-based mid-card wrestlers and managers. I like him a lot. He was on NWA last year just as a regular wrestler, and I'm like, but you should be doing something silly. It's just like wearing black tights and black boots, and I'm like, but you're good and everything, but like, why aren't you doing something ridiculous? This doesn't seem right. Anyway, John, your thoughts?
I don't get why they were trying to build this as a surprise. It was just like, oh, who's Cardona's partner going to be? It's like, I'm sorry, but you've been dropping hints for the past few weeks. The only thing that would have partially thrown us off was the injury news, but even then, Impact finds a way.
It's gonna be a hot mess.
I was watching this, and it's a perfectly fine, like, serviceable match. There's nothing too groundbreaking on it. It's nice to see Chelsea Green wrestling again, I guess. But it's just like, okay, this is cool. Now, when's Nick Gage going to come out and try and impale Matt Cardona with a wrestling thing? That's all I was waiting for. I was like, come on, give me Gage. Give me Gage. Give me Gage. And he just never appears. And it's sad. I don't get why.
I was going to say, he's got slightly bigger fish to fry on a different night of the week, namely legendary Canadians.
I had goosebumps for that. I'm not even going to pretend to bullshit around.
I can imagine you might have weed a bit.
Christ, I'm not that bad, but like I saw it. I was just like, he's bullshitting, right? He's bullshitting, right? And oh my. Anyway, back to Impact. We don't They're already being
Yes.
overshadowed by AEW enough. Let's not ruin it in their own review.
Okay then. Sorry, my
But
bad.
this match was fine, but I agree that this didn't need to be on the main card. Like, I'd have probably put the women's tag titles match in this spot. Like, instead, you could still like cool everything down after that like X Division firehouse with the tag titles instead of this.
Yeah, I mean, I actually would have swapped the next match into the opening show, mainly for the basic reason you've got a new wrestler in W. Morrissey who hasn't been seen much on your television show, so give him the widest possible audience to get him over. We'll talk about that match in a minute, but I agree with you. I think this match was perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. It was cool. There were some cool spots in it. The fans really love Chelsea Green. She was way over. But yeah, just seemed a bit overdone and pointless. But there you go. So we'll move on to the next match, which was W. Morrissey, Kaz, as he used to be known in WWE, and he defeated Eddie Edwards in a match that was 11 minutes long and was far too long and had a bit of a squib ending, and I really didn't like it at all. Darragh, your thoughts?
Oh, it's the worst thing ever. I didn't like this at all. I understand that Morrissey is a big get for them, but he's really not. This is not a grab for them. This is, I think it's a poor mistake. Like when Kaz was Kaz, he got over not for himself. He got over as part of a tag team, and he was never the one that anybody wanted to see. I don't get it. And then Edwards going out and just getting battered. It's like, okay, because if someone could explain to me what this was supposed to achieve, I'd like to know. Like, I know it was obviously to get him over, but again, this is something that could have been done on TV. It didn't need to be done on a pay-per-view. It was like, this is an angle that you would shoot before pay-per-view, and not even a big pay-per-view. You do it for one of your normal shows, and then you would build up this feud to this. Like, if you were booking this logically, they'd have one or two matches, and then this 11-minute match would have been a cage match or something. You know what I mean? Like, logic dictates that there's bits missing here, because there are, and I don't know. It just felt very. The last match and this match felt very hollow for me. The show started to dip because of stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, no, he's not a get. You're right. He's a famously toxic, difficult to work with guy who dragged the locker room down in WWE, and that's the reason why he can't find work anywhere else. Having said that, Impact have made those kind of guys their bread and butter for the last 10 years, and they've managed to get some good things out of these people. But you're right. I think it should have been on the pre-show, and he should have destroyed Eddie Edwards in 2 minutes. If you're going to job out the former GHC and Impact Wrestling champion, do it with some style and get something out of it.
But this is the problem, right? The problem isn't that he's toxic or whatever. Wrestlers are what they are. The problem is that there's no, the personal stuff. I kind of shelf sometimes, particularly when they're introducing him in a new way. For me, it's more like, what did he do? He's a big guy. Okay, there's been big guys in Impact before, and he beat up Eddie Edwards. It's like, okay, so where's he going to go next? Is he just going to go straight for the championship? But we know he's not going to do that. Is he going to face one of the AEW guys? Maybe, but then again, you're not building him up, and he'll get squashed anyway. They wrote themselves into a corner here, and what would have been more beneficial is if they had to set this up. It was a match. Eddie still could have got beaten, but he, a good 10-minute match that's competitive with weapons or with a gimmick would have served them both, because then he'd be like, well, as you said, I beat the former champion, decisively in a 10-minute match. I want to move on to whoever I want to move on to, and in that way, you have your star kind of already built. Eddie Edwards doesn't look like a jobber because the damage was done to him now, and you're just like, okay, well, as you said, you're left with somebody where nothing was achieved to beat your champion, and you have a famously toxic wrestler just there.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's like, well done. Good job, everybody. You failed at everything you tried to do.
Sean, what are your thoughts on this?
It was fine. Like I get where the sort of anger comes from, because like, oh great, it's Kaz, he held promoters at knife point. He's a total mess, and he seems to have turned himself around a bit, at least, and he kind of worked as the monster here. It was fine for what it was, even if what it was kind of a drag. Like, it had its moments. There was a nasty apron powerbomb that looked cool. The ending can die in a fire. I don't really have the energy for this one. It's like they clearly didn't. It's like I love Eddie Edwards, but even he couldn't really sort of inject much in the way of life into this. It was just sort of methodical monster beat down for 11 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was about 9 minutes too long. Marcus, do you want to bring some positivity to this, or are we really off the deep end?
I'll give it the old college try. Yeah, I am glad that you and Darragh went first. I think you kind of hit it on the head, even though I think maybe appreciated Morrissey more than you guys have. If nothing for the simple fact that he's kind of improved in terms of certainly his look, and just about the fact that we might be talking about this guy in life past tense because of the road his life was going down. So that's good. With Edwards, like, I'm a huge fan of Eddie Edwards. Wish he would have got more out of his title run, and he's kind of on this thing now where he's kind of just fitting in the spaces, not necessarily having a consistent ongoing narrative on the show. Obviously, he's a impact defender by anybody who kind of comes in and tries to take over. But other than that, he's kind of been spinning his wheels a little bit since kind of falling out of the world's title picture. But this match with Morrissey, it was just like, to Dale's point, it would have just benefited more had it been an actual feud. And it feels like we just got through having a deep discussion talking about best in the world, about wrestlers who show up on the show a lot and talk about having a narrative but don't really have one. So,
yeah.
With Morrissey, at least give him a more defined thing, because he's going to be this big hulking guy that's going around beating the piss out of everybody and kind of giving those old school, I guess, test vibes in the ring, if you will, with the boots and whatnot. Just have him have a defined thing. Like, I'm gonna go through all your former champions to prove that that's exactly where I need to be, or something like that. But just having him randomly picking through guys, specifically somebody like Edwards, who is basically a pillar in this company now. Like, he's been one of the most loyal guys, that they've had over this last decade. So, a little bit better treatment of him, certainly. But yeah, like you guys said, that this match was what it was. I think more than anything, John's tone was the perfect definition for this match. It just kind of was what it was. And then, like you said, it could have definitely been short. And if you're gonna do that, then put it early on the card.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where we're at with this one.
The thing that confuses me is they brought Morrissey in, they put him with Violent by Design, which, sure, it fits him image-wise, but they didn't need another monster. They've got Joe Doring.
Yeah.
Like, how do you need another monster when you've got Joe Doring?
Yeah, and a very accomplished monster, former Triple Crown champion, as they never failed to tell us on commentary, which he is. He was the biggest gauging star all Japan has had for the last 15 years. And yeah, so it's a bit weird. Why do you need him?
I feel like they could have just put Morrissey in somewhere else so that he could sort of become his own character and not just another Violence by Design monster. It's like, oh cool, this faction has 2 gigantic killers now, but it's like they already had one. Why couldn't he go be a gigantic killer for someone else or for himself? It's all down to narrative and the fact that he doesn't really have any.
Yeah.
He's just there.
A wrestler in search of a storyline, shall we say. All right, then, let's move on to the next match, which was a tag team match, which showed the return of your Finn Juice, David Finlay, and Juice Robinson, who were wrestling Madman Fulton and Shearer, who were on hiding to nothing anyway, the former IWGP and Impact tag team champions, coming up with another new finisher. I think this is their 5th now this year, because they like to change up a bit. It was perfectly fine. I don't know what happened to Badman Fulton. He used to be the cornerstone monster of Impact Wrestling like a year ago, and now he seems to be cut adrift and clearly about to have a feud with Shearer for reasons best known to themselves. It gives them something to do, keeps them happy. I think that's a good thing to keep them on TV and sell some compelling storylines. But it was basically get Finn Juice over as one of the best tag teams in the world, which they are. We'll start with Marcus. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Finn Juice in an empty room, and then all of a sudden 2 people start screaming for him, and the light is probably me and James. Yeah, I never, complain about seeing, these guys, specifically Juice, love Juice. It's funny. I mean, this definitely felt like, this was the very definition of intermission, for the show. And it's funny, we just got to talk about Morrissey. Hell, you could have had Fulton and Shearer pissed off about not having a match and just have a pissy Morrissey come out there and just have a Haas 3-way and have him beat. If you having the guy trying to find something, at least have knock the big guys out. But this was what it was. It was a minute and 15. Did what it needed to do. We got to see Finn Juice back, and Fulton and Shearer, I guess, got to go back to the drawing board. So, it was fine.
The only thing that kind of I had a problem with it, mild problem with it, is that they're kind of using these shows, New Japan, to push the big show they've got in LA in about a couple of weeks' time, where the main event is David Finlay versus Jay White for the Never Openweight Championship, which is a bit bizarre then to push David as a tag team wrestler, which he is, the very good one, but it's like he's going for a singles title. But that's maybe just me, seemed to be a little bit odd, but you kind of fit things in when you fit things in, I guess. Darragh, your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, like you guys hit the nail on the head there. There's, it was a fun match. A match that really didn't. Again, I don't really see the overall point of it other than to have Finn Juice back, which I suppose is a big thing, and maybe that was the point of this match. But on commentary, that seemed to be it. Probably. There's better ways around this. Again, they could have had like there was obviously the Impact World Tag Team Championship match that was on 2 matches later. I think having them come back for that and winning it would have been cool, but obviously there's reasons they couldn't do that. So this was the best that they could have done. Yeah, look, it was what it was. It was it was a good way to get them over, showcase that they still have it, that they're still a great tag team, and they just basically killed Fulton and Shearer. It was just a squash match, So if the goal was to just be like, hey, here's a surprise team we have back, and they'll probably make a run for the belts, then it was successful. But if it was to do anything else, I think it missed the mark slightly.
Yes. I think that's it. It just I can't see it doing anything else, and it was fine. Did what it needed to do, really. John, your thoughts? Not a lot to say about 1 minute and 15 seconds worth of wrestling, but let us know.
No, I feel like we just need like a breakdown of Juice's completely chaotic sense of style. That's always what I end up coming to when it's like, oh, Finn Juice are out. It's like, yeah, they're perfectly cool in the ring, perfectly cool to watch. Why does Juice look like he's been electrocuted again? There's just there is so much to break down in just Juice's outfit, and the fact that he changes them every few months. It's like
I liked Joliet Juice. That was my personal favorite, and I don't think everyone got that. But that was because he is from Joliet in Illinois, where the prison in the Blues Brothers is. So, that was an obvious thing to do. Why not do that? I thought that was really cool. I like that one. That was my personal fave. But he is the flamboyant Juice Robinson. And when you bill somebody as the flamboyant Juice Robinson, they have to be flamboyant, don't they?
Yeah, but I feel like I'd have preferred maybe 3 minutes of just Juice breaking down his contract and telling me how the fuck he has so many outfits than them squashing 2 credible monsters in like 1 minute and 15. Like, it's fun. But I genuinely feel like this could have been done in like a promo package, or just them coming to the ring and having Fulton and Shearer just be like, "Oh, how come you're on the card and we're not?" And then just Finn just batting them away instead of making it an entirely pointless match.
That seems more creative, and I can understand where you're coming from that.
It
Right
feels
then,
like it should have been a segment, not a squash match.
Yes, I think there's a lot of that. There's not an awful lot of interviewing going on. Well, no, I tend not to watch interviews. That's probably my point. There was quite a few segments on this show, but perhaps this would be better served letting people talk, I guess. Okay, then we move on to the next match, which was match 6. Oh, by the way, we should mention in the commentary, it was Matt Striker and D'Lo Brown, who are one of my favourite commentary teams. They're very good together.
They're so good. Look, Matt Striker's always brilliant. I love Matt Striker. D'Lo just brings that little bit of touch of extra personality. It's great. It's really good. They have I think it's the best commentary team going today.
Yeah, I dig those boys. They actually sound like they're actually having fun and enjoying each other. You know, which not used to. In fact, I haven't been used to for a while, so it's great.
Yeah, I think you listen to I think those two and Chris Charlton and Kevin Kelly in New Japan, and the third member, whether it's Gino or Rocky or whoever, they all sound like they're having fun. Rick Abani does as well. He sounds like he's having fun when he's doing commentary, so it makes it more entertaining. Whereas you listen to some WWE commentary and it's like clearly forced because somebody's screaming in their ear hole. So it's never.
When Josh has been on, me and James are screaming. So.
Yeah, what can you do? Anyway, let's move on to match 6, which was a.
Speaking of former commentators, the most unlikely thing was teased the other day. Bloody Steve Corino has teased a return to wrestling.
In WWE? Is he still under contract to them?
I don't know the specifics of it. He just posted like a minute-long video of him waking up from some sort of 20-year nap. And just like the return and the date, I can't actually remember. But yeah, just because we're talking about commentators.
Is he out of contract?
I don't know. I genuinely have no other information other than the video that I saw and was just kind of like, holy shit, is Steve Corino going to pick up where he left off and just be the best trash-talking heel there was?
We shall see, indeed. Let us move on then to match 6, which featured Chris Sabin and Moose go for it in a 12-minute singles match, which again didn't seem to do anything or have much point. And it was all right. There was nothing wrong with it per se. It just didn't seem to go anywhere. So we'll start with John. What do you think of this one?
See, Moose is a dick. Like, we'll just throw that out there now. I don't think anyone likes Moose for his personality or his backstage conduct, but when it comes to wrestling and it comes to the sort of big matches, the big pay-per-views and things like that, he always pulls out an interesting match, or he ups the ante to some degree. Like here, he just completely beat the shit out of Sabin for half this match. And it was relative fun to watch. It was pretty much what you'd expect from the pair, Moose being a domineering sort of bastard and Sabin coming back with veteran instinct and speed. I still don't agree with the fact that Moose does moonsault and battery and can't do it as well as Shane Mercer. So bring Mercer to Impact. That's what I want now. Just bring the person who can actually do moonsault and battery properly. But yeah, great match. Sort of, great in inverted commas. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but like looking back on some of these things, I enjoyed them in the moment when I was watching them. But when you sort of look at them again, it's kind of just like, that was a bit of a drag. But it's like, I don't want to back up anything because it's Chris Sabin and Chris Sabin's trying his heart out. It's just like, it's the fact that the talent in the ring, you sort of like, this should be great, but again, it feels like it's either gone on too long or it's going at too slow of a pace for you to probably get interested in.
Yeah, I just don't see where they're going with it. I don't see what happens next or what. I mean, Chris Sabin's beaten Moose, but Moose has been kind of like pushed for a long time as the big bad monster of Impact. So when Sabin beats him, Sabin is always a gifted wrestler, is is always portrayed as a legendary figure with Impact Wrestling, true, and a former Impact Wrestling heavyweight champion, and X Division champion, tag team champion, and all the things he's done. So yeah, it's not unforeseeable that he can beat Moose. But are they done with Moose? I know he's open for bookings elsewhere now, but nothing's been announced. So
I think they're just milking this feud because they don't know what else to do.
I suppose that's a possibility. Marcus, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yes, I didn't have that bigger issue with. I mean, it was cool to see Aben eke out a win. I think for me, Moose has probably been one of my more favorite things to watch over this period, a couple of years, because of he's had a really long-term progression in the company, and it's been interesting seeing his evolution in terms. Certainly, this is the best he's looked in his entire wrestling career, and I think he's really found himself in his heel gimmick, and then all different facets with the promo work, the entrance, the attire, all that stuff. I think with this, the Don's point about, like, I definitely understand about the enjoying it in the moment, but not really feeling like anything afterwards. Because I mean, I appreciated the narrative of, obviously, Saban and Storm were tagging. Moose took out Storm and then tried to take out Saban, but Saban came back and trying to get revenge for his partner and himself. I think overall, you look at the narrative with Moose, he's really been geared towards being the champion, the world champion, and then he damn near gets there and kind of gets knocked off his person. I like the fact that he's only lost like a few times, and when he has, somebody like Swan and Saban have won matches against him, but they didn't beat him.
Right, yeah.
I appreciate that aspect, but I feel like now, in terms of the narrative around the world title, because so many things are kind of getting interjected now, he's kind of being the odd man out. Whereas now, like John said, it sounds like are they done with him or what have you? Because you've kind of interjected, obviously, Callahan and some, obviously now, somebody else might be stepping up to the plate. Like, where does Moose? Are you just deterring him in his role to actually get in the championship? Because that's been his whole, again, using that word, narrative over this past couple of years. So are you just putting in a couple speed bumps? Are you gonna pull the trigger? Because I think he re-signed, and any long-term Impact fans know sometimes what either signing or re-signing kind of means with certain incentives. So, like I said, it'll be a shame if they don't do something, because he's probably had one of the most consistent bookings of most of the guys that's been on that roster for a while. So, the match was what it was, but it will be interesting to see what he do next. Either he's going to try to finish this feud out and definitively beat Saban on the road back to going after the championship, or like John said, they're just going to milk this until they kind of fade him off into the dark.
Yeah, so we shall see. Darragh, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I just want the Motor City Machine Guns back. Can we make that happen?
Shelley is in recovery. Is recovering faster than they thought he would do.
Yeah, you see, that's it. That's all I want. Like, Saban's great. Obviously, and it's kind of, I don't want to badmouth him because he got killed for like about 10 minutes. I'm sure it wasn't a good time. There were some good spots there. Like Moose, I don't really like. He pulls it out on the big matches. He really does. I don't like him. I just really don't. And it's not like Cody Rhodes, who there's no reason to like Cody Rhodes. It's more just like Moose. I just don't get it. It's just there's one of those things where you're watching the match and you're like, okay, when is he going to be a big star? Okay, he's not. All right, and then that's it. And it's one of the things that Saban is like an institution there. The same with any of the, as you said, with Eddie Edwards as well. There's these specific guys in Impact who, I don't want to call them gatekeepers because obviously they're not, but they are like your, for WWE fans, they're like your Randy Ortons. If you beat them, they're trying to get you somewhere. With Moose, they've been trying to do it for a while, and it seems like he's going backwards instead of going forwards. And I'm just kind of lost. I maybe it's because of the AEW thing where they've been working with AEW and it's kind of forced us back a little bit. But this really didn't seem like there was any logic behind it. But then again, if they had a decent match, it wasn't a bad match. It's just I wish it was for something. I wish there was a reason for it. What would have been cool here is, both these guys maybe feuding with some AEW folks, bringing in some lower card AEW folks, and doing it that way. Because if, and I think we said this on the Rewind, when you bring in AEW talent and that is kind of taken over your main roster spot in your upper card, you're left with this. Well, what do we do? They should really extend this AEW thing beyond just having Kenny Omega come out and beat everybody. And maybe that's a way around it. You have some lower mid card guys, or lower upper card guys or upper mid card guys, for AEW just come in and they can trade wins there, and at least there will be something. Or maybe have even Moose and Saban as a tag team. Look, we're enemies, but we need to band together for this, because that would do something. It would tell us some kind of story. It would just be, here's a match, So look, I'm glad to see Saban won, but it was a cheap win. So
I was going to say, surely best friends would be the perfect tag team to go against two guys who don't like each other.
There you go. I think that would be amazing.
Trent and sexy Chucky T.
You can do it. Yeah, I think it would be great. Yeah. And the thing about it is, then, right, when Shelley does come back, you have a dream match: the Guns versus the Best Friends.
There you go. You see, you can just imagine.
Writes itself, folks. Just use your brain. Just your brain.
Just Moose hanging over the top rope, blowing his guts out, looks down, and there's Chucky T with his thumb up in his face.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
There you go. Be awesome. See, just the spots you could see. Yeah, no, that's it. Okay, then we move on to the World Tag Team Championship match, which was a 4-way match. Why was it a 4-way match? Could have had a tournament with these 4 teams.
Everybody needed to get paid.
Oh yeah, this was clearly that, including guys who only just started working for the company. The Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, defeated Violent by Design, the champions Joe Deering and Rhino, as well as Rich Swann and Willie Mack, and Fowler Bar, and the debuting No Way Jose, a Dominican gentleman who I have not seen wrestle before, ever. And it was like, he seems quite happy with life. And that was that. And it was fun, did really what it needed to do, which was get the tag belts onto Anderson and Gallows so they can do something with him, because they're the biggest tag team they've got. Marcus, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a shout out to Darragh when it comes to the Good Brothers. I've appreciated them in New Japan, but I think they had to do more with the setting and how that environment made them act and whatnot. But here, the entire running Impact, I just don't like them.
Fair enough.
I just don't like them, and we've had this discussion too, James. They just come off more. They're Impact guys. They're signed to Impact, but they come off. They actually feel like AEW wrestlers.
Literally.
Yeah.
That's it, Marcus. You're spot on. That's exactly the feeling you get the entire time they're on the show.
It's always felt like that. And obviously, those guys are certain talent, and they've had their run in New Japan and whatnot, but that's just how it feels. And I'm like, you guys just don't take over the whole damn company with the situation. Obviously, Violent by Design. I can appreciate them adding Rhino to that, kind of up and getting him back into his violent thing. I'm a huge fan of Rich Swann and Willie Mack. I think if you're gonna pull the trigger on somebody, I'll put it on those two. I think them being a tag team champions have been kind of a long time coming with the back and forth they had through the friendship and everything. This one's for James. There was no way I saw No Way Jose getting on this show, but still replacing TJP, and that's a win for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's be honest here. The show was greatly improved by the presence of No Way Jose, purely because TJP wasn't wrestling.
Exactly. There you go. Speaking of somebody not getting paid, hey, that's good booking for me. but if we going who wins the match, not that it needed to be a 4-way to you guys' point, I'm going with Swann and Mack. But they went back they're going with a narrative, in which case, the other guys will kind of come in and take over. So we'll get our belts back eventually, I guess.
Yes. Darragh, what are your thoughts? Because they seem in line with Marcus and me.
Marcus kind of put his finger on exactly the issue with the Good Brothers. Like, when you're watching them, they feel like they're in AEW influence. 'Cause they are. They're just, not really. And it takes away a lot from them, because it's just like, it doesn't help that they then show up and start hanging out with Kenny Omega, and you're like, are you part of the AEW invasion? Okay, you're not. You're on and it's really weird. And it just takes so much away from them. There's no real way that they can build themselves up then as their own thing. They're just like, okay, so your whole thing is here. You're just representing AEW, even though you're not. And I would say, going forward, they need to figure out what they're actually going to do. Are they just going to have them as AEW representatives and not really care about Impact in that sense? The end of this show ended with them standing there, with Kenny Omega after he, won his match. So it's just like, okay, so what? AEW have all the belts now? Is that what the storyline is? Because that's never made clear. And it's not really, Now, the thing about it is, I like Willie Mack. He's gas, and he's a good lad. Rhino, I love Rhino. Anytime Rhino shows up, I'm like, look at him there. He's great. So, I had a good time watching this match. But, from an Impact fan perspective, I have no clue what's going on with the Good Brothers. I don't know what they're trying to get across here, and it's definitely something that they're probably going to have to address sooner rather than later. Because here's the thing, in theory, or in practice even, the belts now are all held by the Bullet Club, right, or whatever.
Whoa.
No, okay. Look,
No,
I knew I was going to say that. I knew you were going to freak out. But you know what I mean? That kind of, AEW Bullet Club, not really Bullet Club kind of thing. And that's complicated, because it's like, right, are you actually doing this, or are you not doing it? Because you can't just make references and then it's very, very messy. And we
can talk about it at the end, because there was a promo on this week's Impact by a gentleman we'll talk about later.
That's why I'm bringing it up. Exactly,
that clarifies the whole situation on where the Elite starts and where Bullet Club ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea. Like, but by working in the Elite to this level on another show that doesn't have anyone else, what's kind of like, right? It's like in Iron Man. So we're gonna bring in an MCU. In Iron Man 3, when Iron Man was needed some help, and everyone was like, where are the Avengers? That's what it's like. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of the Wrestling Rewind here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you want the full show, there's two ways you're going to be able to get it. Join us live 11:30 p.m, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, over on the Wrestling Rewind YouTube channel. TheWrestlingRewind.com will get you there, and you can join the chat and join in on the fun. Also, if you want, you can check us out on the podcast. The podcast can be got from our channel, Nerd to Know Media. You can subscribe there, or you can go to the Two Penny channel, or the Two Penny Show channel, and you'll be able to get it there for free, no cost to you, and there's a whole bunch of content there as well. But thank you for checking us out here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, the Wrestling Rewind. We'll see you next week. You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Mark has kind of put his finger on exactly the issue with the Good Brothers. Like when you're watching them, they feel like they're an AEW influence. 'Cause they are. They're just, not really. And it takes away a lot from them because it's just like, it doesn't help that they then show up and start hanging out with Kenny Omega, and you're like, are you part of the AEW invasion? Okay, you're not. You're on and it's really weird. And it just takes so much away from them. There's no real way that they can build themselves up then as their own thing. They're just like, okay, so your whole thing is here. You're just representing AEW, even though you're not. And I would say going forward, they need to figure out what they're actually going to do. Are they just going to have them as AEW representatives and not really care about Impact in that sense? The end of the show ended with them standing there, with Kenny Omega after he, won his match. So it's just like, okay, so what? AEW have all the belts now? Is that what the storyline is? Because that's never made clear. And it's not really, Now the thing of it is, I like Willie Mack. He's gas, and he's a good lad. Rhino, I love Rhino. Anytime Rhino shows up, I'm like, look at him there, he's great. So I had a good time watching this match, but from an Impact fan perspective, I have no clue what's going on with the Good Brothers. I don't know what they're trying to get across here, and it's definitely something that they're probably going to have to address sooner rather than later. Because here's the thing, in theory or in practice even, the belts now are all held by the Bullet Club, right, or whatever.
Whoa.
Okay. Look, I knew I was going to say that. I knew you were going to freak out. But you know what I mean? That kind of, AEW Bullet Club, not really Bullet Club kind of thing. And that's complicated because it's like, right, are you actually doing this or are you not doing it? Because you can't just make references and then it's very, very messy. And
we can talk about it at the end because there was a promo on this week's Impact by a gentleman we'll talk about later.
That's why I'm bringing it up. Exactly,
that clarifies the whole situation on where the Elite starts and where Bullet Club ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea. Like but by working in the Elite to this level on another show that doesn't have anyone else, what's kind of like, right? It's like in Iron Man. So we're gonna bring in an MCU. In Iron Man 3, when Iron Man was needed some help, and everyone was like, where are the Avengers? That's what it's like. It's like, where's everybody else? What's going on? Can we not afford people? And it just looks really cheap. Then it kind of comes off like it's a new version of what Impact used to do in their dark days, where you'd send Road Dogg and Billy Gunn out to say Michael Hickenbottom at the Alamo.
Yeah,
that's what it comes off like. It's really weird, and I hate when they do this.
Yeah,
it's. I was carry on.
No, I was just saying it's just weird, how much they're helping, in this particular narrative with the long-term goal. You would think of improving and coming out looking better for it, but it's like you did all this help building the house, and I don't think they're gonna let you stay in it. Like
no.
That's it. They're gonna be like, all right, time to get out now.
It's not looking good. It's hustling backwards. It's weird.
Yeah, I think as well it's the Deadpool thing, isn't it? Where all of the other X-Men are into the room off to the right.
That's it. Yeah, it's like, can you not afford anyone else? It's like, that's what it comes off like. It's like the main rule of anything you're doing, it shouldn't be reminding you of something better. You shouldn't be like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? It's like you should just be in it at the moment. And the Good Brothers are a great grab, in theory. In practice, they're just paying some other They're paying some other promotion storyline to take over your show, and then rewarding that other promotion by giving 3 of your top belts to it for no payoff, for no reason. It's really dumb. I don't. We used to joke. Everybody used to joke Dix Carter was being worked over. Anthem are being worked over by Tony Khan. So
it's like the Good Brothers were an AEW plant before they even started working.
It's like, here, how can we save some money? Well, if we just, grease these marks, we'll be able to just, instead of paying them, they can just pay them, and we can have an extra show that only benefits us. It's weird. It's a very strange thing that Impact have decided to do, and you're seeing the negative effect here that's having on their show, where it's like, instead of doing stuff that would elevate their talent, they're in this weird holding pattern, because it's like, well, we can't. We talked about it. The last two matches were case in point. We can't push these guys beyond a certain point because Kenny Omega's shown up to garbage wrestle and walk away with our belt. I don't understand it. It's
Yeah.
They should have learned their lesson after Hogan, and they obviously haven't.
No, I think this is the thing, is like one at a time. It's properly spaced out. Funnily enough, like New Japan have done it with AEW, you send a big star over, there's a big match, you leave it a while, that's fine, because everybody benefits from that. Whereas it's the ongoing storyline, and it happened in Japan as well. When Minoru Suzuki was the Global Honor Crown Champion, Noah fans hated it because he's a New Japan guy.
Well, look, it's like,
and they were that dominant, and they won all the titles, and they kept winning the titles, and they kept keeping the titles, and the crowds went down and down and down. The matches were great, but nobody was watching them.
Well, here's the thing, right? Kenta comes into AEW, wins the belt, and then disappears. Or a big part of AEW would be, Kenta being dominant on us. Do you honestly think the AEW would want that? No, they would not. They'd be like, here, that's not happening. They know the way to do it. Impact should do the same thing. Where, bringing in Kenny Omega, it's cool, and they can have your dream matches. But there's no dream matches if there's no stars. If everyone is lower to AEW, anyone who comes into AEW is going to be seen as basically a glorified squash match, and that is what's happening.
Yeah, it's the elementary kids playing half court. The teenagers come on and like convince them, like, you guys want to see some cool tricks, and then all of a sudden the teenagers are playing full court.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, exactly.
John, do you have any different opinions on this particular match? Or indeed the tag team division in general?
I had the biggest smile on my face when the Good Brothers stole the win. Just I knew how much it would piss people off. Like, I love them because everyone hates them. Like,
I don't hate them. I love them, but I hate AEW.
It's one of these things where, like, I just see the reaction they get and I like them more. Like, I've always been a fan of them since New Japan days, and just the fact that so many people now hate them because of this storyline they've been brought into, I gleefully want to root for the villains. Like, don't get me wrong, Willie Mack is one of my favorite wrestlers in Impact. He's incredible, and I wish he'd get more TV time. And I loved the sort of chaotic mess this tag match had. Good on No Way Jose, I guess. I don't see how the hell he's gonna get used in Impact, but I mean, it's worth a try. Why not? It's funny, but I was saving all my sort of AEW has completely taken over Impact and left Impact with nothing narrative until after the main event, but I'm kind of glad we got it all out into the open now. It's like Impact is an Impact at the moment. It's a conglomerate of New Japan stars and bloody AEW stars coming in to take the top half of the show, whilst leaving like Impact stars floundering for attention in sort of the lower card. It's literally just it's like being smothered by an AEW New Japan pillow.
It's really even weirder because, and James knows this, they always did this thing for a stretch of period of time, and Darragh knows this too, where every year Abyss would be out there talking about they're coming or some crap. Except now the them isn't like another faction in the company, it's a whole nother damn company.
It's like, I'm all for collaboration, but there's no equality in any of this.
That's the thing, and when this happened, obviously, taking away my biases, like, you're like, okay, this could be cool, but how does it benefit? And it just doesn't. As you said, it's just, none of this. It's kind of like none of this stuff matters until the real stars come in, and you're like, oh, I've seen this before. Yeah, this doesn't go well, And then it's like, okay, well, here's my question: what happens when AEW stars leave? They have no stars, and then you're like, okay, well, you spent how many months building up stars from another company at the expense of your own guys, and now everyone who has been beaten looks like jobbers.
Yeah, that's it. It's. I mean, luckily that kind of thing doesn't happen in the women's division. Oh wait. Having said that, this was one of the best women's matches from North America I've seen all year, and it should have been 3 times longer.
Match
and Thunder Rosa, easily by a long, long way. Thunder Rosa is an exceptional talent, and I'm glad that Tony Khan has actually seen enough sense to put money into her. The fact that she wasn't signed properly to AEW until after this match is insane. Deonna Purrazzo is the most consistent performer Impact Wrestling has, and she is the true face of the company and the true star of the company. In my opinion, she has been outstanding as the dominant old-school Ric Flair, Nick Bockwinkel style champion the company so desperately needs. And this should have been the main event, and they should have built it up as Thunder Rosa versus Deonna Purrazzo. That would have been ace. But, that's the way things go, I guess. John, what are your thoughts on this match? Because we saved you till last time, so you can go first this time.
I like the way they built this, because this was a mystery that actually felt like a mystery. Because it's like, okay, we've got these tauntings of the NWA, which leads you to believe, oh god, are we getting Deonna versus Mickie James? That's going to be cool. There was all these other talks, and all of a sudden it's just like, Thunder Rosa? That's fucking incredible. And I hadn't thought of it until her music hit, and I was just like, of course. And yeah, this was by far one of the best matches of the night. It needed to be longer, and just goddamn, 2 exceptional wrestlers doing what they do best. I think this was the most excited the crowd had been at that point since the X Division match. It was just awesome to watch. And I wish they'd shortened a couple of the other matches so this could have had more time.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's just exceptional. Like, just really, really good quality wrestling. And I just love these two. I would watch them wrestle forever and a day, and it elevated the Impact Wrestling champion at the time, which was the kind of the point. And Thunder Rosa doesn't lose anything because it's an opponent she's never faced before. She hasn't figured her out yet. You can make that work. She can have a rematch down the line, which is how you're supposed to book wrestling properly, really, in my opinion. But, Deonna Purrazzo can now go to AEW and challenge her back again because, there's all sorts of things you can do with this because it leaves things open. The big possibility, of course, is the NWA Invitational, which Deonna Purrazzo has finally accepted an invite to this week on Impact Wrestling Television. Marcus, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was, definitely agree with John and certainly everything you said. I mean, look, Deonna has really been, like you said, a de facto face. And that's the kind of what you get when your champion's actually in your company. And like you said, it's funny, she was in both Ring of Honor and WWE NXT or whatever. And this is what she always was trying to be, and neither she couldn't do it in either company. But now she's getting to do it on full display. And the creative freedom that she's been allowed, and just improving in so many different facets. She really is as good as she's saying. And the fact that, like, besides what happened at the very end of the show, this was the only other thing I actually popped for.
Yeah.
When Thunder Rosa came out, because there was also a rumor that somebody could, that one of the person that they was dropping, because it could have been a lot of false fake outs, and then somebody like tell somebody showed up, and then I just would have been befuddled at that point. But that was a lingering possibility. But I'm so glad that it was Thunder Rosa. She's brilliant. I'm almost, as an Impact fan, embarrassed they didn't try and sign her, considering the fact that she was out there as a free agent. But what do you do? Yeah, this was brilliant. Like you said, this could have been the main event easily on any show, and I could have watched this match for another, like you said, 10 minutes, and then, it's just, this is what, like you said, most consistent thing has been with Deonna. She really is the face, and yeah, I mean, I don't think you could ask for nothing better than this. Everybody loved this. The crowd was into it. I mean, they got dueling chants. This is what so.
Yeah, this was the hottest match on the card as well. Darragh, what were your thoughts on this?
Again, to go back to what I said at the start of the show, Impact has always been really two things: the X division and the women's division, always. Except for when Hogan took over and killed the company. But yeah, like, you know, we're going back to it, you know, and that's why I'm not worried about it long term as soon as they figure this out themselves. And it seems like there's two factions at Impact at the moment, where it's like the management that know what's going on and they're like, okay, well, look, we know what works, and then the others who are like, AEW are brilliant, let's sacrifice our entire show to AEW, and they're kind of fighting each other. And at the moment, I don't know who's going to win, but it seems like if the actual faction who are like, right, our X division and our women's division are bread and butter, we need to get back to that. If they win, we're fine. We're in for a good show. Because again, Impact know what they are, for the most part. They know they're the basically an independent promotion that have access to bigger stars or a bigger audience through cross promotion, and that's a cool little place for them to sit. But having Peroso as your, you know, not only your women's champion or your knockout champion, as the face of your company, do that. You know, come on. You know, she's been great. She can have great matches with Emma. We've seen her having those matches with her. And to be fair, if you build that out, you can have something that no other women's division in WWE, AEW, or North America in general has, because, you know, they're always overlooked for the most part. And then again, if there is a kind of thing where some of the ladies want to leave WWE, they can go to Impact and establish as a great place for the women to work and be given that massive platform. So this is cool for them. I think it shows that, one, it works because the fans were there, and this was the thing they were most into the entire night. The main event they were for a bit as well, but these women went in and had a match, a wrestling match. It was brilliant. The two lads that followed them had to break out barbed wire chairs to get something the same. And it's just like, come on, you know, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant match.
Yeah.
Fair play to all of them. And again, I hope that when the dust does settle on this kind of thing, that the big wigs in Impact are like, well, what do our fans like? Well, we have the best women's division in the world, and we have the X division. Let's run on those things, and everything else will fall into place. This should have been a main event. It's a shame that it wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Just outstanding work from both wrestlers involved. Everyone's talked about that one, haven't we? So we should get on with the main event. Sami Callihan lost to Kenny. Oh, is anyone else not speaking on that match? Have I gone through everybody?
Yeah, I was just gonna laugh because this is gonna be probably the most contentious match between us all.
Yes, it is. Sorry, I thought I'd just making sure I hadn't missed anyone. Everyone had their say on the previous match because Kenny Omega defeated Sami Callihan by pinfall in a no disqualification match for the Impact World Championship in 27 minutes and 45 seconds. I hate Sami Callihan. I find him the most boring, detestable wrestler on the planet. I did not enjoy this match, as you can probably imagine. It was genuinely kind of like analysing it. I think it was about 10 minutes too long. It's a no DQ match. They're supposed to be short. So the fact this went for 27 minutes and 45 just blew my mind. I have no idea it wasn't.
Kenny Omega no DQ match. Those are special. They always run long.
It's still like, if this is the most brutal wrestler in Impact Wrestling, can't finish this guy off whilst using weapons against him. What? Doesn't make any sense, and it just predictable and boring. Oh, I could actually, he's taken that bump so he can blade. Oh, look, he's bladed. Yeah, it was just, the ref bump was just a disaster. It was just terrible, in my opinion. And not everyone else is going to go agree with me. John isn't, because he likes Sami Callihan, but it just, and again, it plays into the issue of the AEW-ness of everything. But we'll save John till last, as this is his kind of thing, and we'll go to Marcus first.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. This has more to do with my affinity for you, but I think I like you hating Callihan more than I actually like him. But yeah, I mean, I was into this match, and then it just got to a point where I was looking at my watch, and I didn't even have one on. And it's kind of a thing, and I did Kenny Omega, and I love his theme music. But it's to the point, and specifically watching him as long as I have in New Japan, even with the stupid ref bump, which I wish somebody would do smarter with, because like you meant the minute you see the ref get knocked down, you know not to hit your finisher and go for a pin. You know the narrative. Like you just can't expect a ref to be sliding in. This doesn't happen. But it's this thing with these Kenny Omega matches now where it's like, and I talked about this with somebody else, like there's a difference between what happens in Japan and what happens here. In Japan, Okada will take 6 back-to-back V-triggers and somehow come back. That's not happening over here. So it's the same treatment that Swan got, where it looked like, but Swan sold it better because he literally sells death really good. But it's to the point now when you get those string of V triggers, you know what time it is. You're just waiting on the pin. But that was after I was waiting for the match to already be over, after some other moves that should normally finish matches. It had a Ring of Honor vibe to it in that way at certain stretches too, which is not good. And then you add Don in there, and it just, if Impact don't know how to do nothing else, it's overbooked the hell out of a world title match. And it's been better in certain instances, but here, between the getting back to overbooking and the AEW-ness of it all, it was a calamity. And like I said, Callahan's okay, but he's not really my guy. So yeah, the 30 minutes, damn near 30 minutes was a bit overkill, and I think I ended up appreciating what happened after the match more than I ended up appreciating the actual match. So.
Yes, absolutely, and that might be a problem within itself. Darragh, what are your thoughts of this?
Right. Okay. First 10 minutes.
It's the fact that you had to. Sorry, it's the fact you had to pause and gather your thoughts to come to it. It's just like, go on. Sorry, it just made me laugh. I do apologize.
No, it's all right. The first 10 minutes were okay, and I think if it had been a 10-15 minute match, I think we all would have been a bit more forgiving with it. The biggest problem here, it's that it's overbooked. The hell. Another thing as well, what they should have done is, like, we shouldn't be rebooking these shows, right? This is ridiculous that that's a thing that has to be done. The visual of Omega coming out with all the belts is pretty cool, right? It does kind of portray him as a big legitimate star for Sami Callihan to overcome. Problem is he doesn't, right? But not only does he not, it's not even in an impact. What he should have done, they should have had it as like a Full Metal Mayhem match, because then at least, we're gonna have you in an Impact match, solely to Impact, Full Metal Mayhem is our big kind of thing, do it that way. No, this is an ODQ match. The Sami Callihan doesn't have the personality that like Moxley has, where it's like, it's time to do some fucking garbage wrestling, and then they go off and do it, and it's like, it's not there. Callihan is what he is. He's found his niche, and I'm not a huge fan of him. I don't hate him, but he doesn't have the personality to carry this kind of thing with Omega. Omega's very boring. And he is cool, and he does do some cool things, but he's very boring. And this would have, like, obviously we saw what he did with Moxley, where even at that point it got kind of boring. This got boring after 10 minutes. It's just like, okay. For everything that I've said, there was no rhyme or reason, there was no impactness to it. The commentators were struggling really in lots of ways. When you go back and watch the match, they're actually struggling to even kind of call this match, because they know what's coming and it doesn't benefit them.
No.
Why was it the main event? If it was the main event to set up what happened afterwards, okay, we'll see what happens. But yeah, this Impact need to be aware that this isn't working. This whole experiment has gone on too far. Having your belt as an accessory for another man in another promotion is, cooking out like you wouldn't believe. And Sami Callihan shouldn't be in a main event. Also, it's just, everything about this was off. Look, hold on, before you jump in, right? Using a pizza cutter in a main event. I hate that. I hate that. You
It's
know,
fair
I'm like,
enough.
I just like, it's just so garbage. It's just, this is not wrestling. This is absolute shite. And I know. Look, John, I know you like death matches and stuff like that, but I appreciate them too. But for me, the Impact belt has a bit more prestige than rolling around, hitting each other with pizza cutters. It's like, come on, really? That's what we're doing now, okay? It's just, I hate it. I hate it.
I was going to say that is a complaint the AAA fans have had for the past year about the fact Omega hasn't really done an awful lot for AAA as their mega champion and
No,
doesn't defend
he's
the
done
title
fuck
often
all.
enough.
He's done fuck all. He's like, look at me, look at all my belts. I'm like, great. That's cool for a promotion that's gone. If you want to walk out with or even the old belts, if you want to walk out with the European Championship from back in the day, that's cool. I'm like, oh, look at that. You don't do it for like real promotions that are there today, that those belts have value. It's just like, if everything is 5 stars, nothing is. If those belts don't mean anything, then they never will. I hate it. I hate this. Sorry. Sorry,
It's okay now. You see, I thought I would be the one that would be vitriolic against this match, but I didn't think you would be as much.
I didn't even realize I would until I started talking about it.
That's my favorite wrestling promo this week.
John, would you like to put a positive twist on this particular matchup?
I'm going to try to. It was way too long. I can agree there. I feel like it needed to be more, especially with the build-up they had to this, all of Callahan's promos, all the attacks. It needed to be more than a basic no DQ match. I was hoping, because Omega seems to love doing deathmatch stuff, or at least hardcore stuff. I was hoping we'd get a barbed wire massacre. I know it would be the second in a row on a big pay-per-view, but the one against Edwards was awesome, and I wanted to see something like that again. What they tried to do worked half the time. It was way too long. It didn't have the impact I wanted. The ref bump can fuck itself. There was so much wrong with it, but I enjoyed it. I tried to enjoy it. I love Callahan. I think he's not built for like soft core, like hardcore wrestling. If you get what I mean, he's not built for the no DQ stuff. He's either built for a straight up brawl where he excels, or he's built for deathmatch stuff where he excels. This middle ground isn't for him. And I was really sort of pissed off at the fact he didn't win, because they built it like, oh, this is it. Impact's got its hero. It's not the hero it wants, but it's the hero it needs, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then he lost. Now he's kind of like, what was the point in any of this?
When you go, sorry to interrupt, but when you go down that line, you have to pull the trigger. You can't like pull back on it, or else that guy's suddenly left out in the breeze. I mean, I don't care about Simon Callahan, but it's not good for your character development down the line.
If it weren't for what came next, I would have been furious with this. But because it was clearly just another piece in a larger puzzle of Impact burying itself under more shit, it's just, yeah, of course they pulled this stunt. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to defend this match to the death because I don't think it's worth it. It was good for what it tried to be, but it was way too long, and they didn't really commit to enough violent spots. It turned into a plunder match that just kind of descended into basic hit each other with items death match. It was old school sort of CZW trash and not the good type. So no, I don't want to just defend this match to the death. I enjoyed it at the time, but it was way too long, and as much as Omega tries to commit to the hardcore stuff, it's just not particularly entertaining to watch. Like, if he was in the ring with Gage, who can take a pizza cutter and make it look cool, because he doesn't overuse it, and just, where you've just got total carnage for like 10, 15 minutes, 20 tops, yeah, sure. Then you've got it, but Callahan isn't built for DQ stuff. He's built for one extreme or the other. And it just, as much as I love him, this match got really dull.
There was nothing interesting. Like, John, like, I agree with you. I think Gage would have been, it would be completely different. We'd have a totally different conversation. But, like, what's the difference between this and any of the other matches that they've had? There's none. Like, there was no big spot where you're like, oh, that was cool. Like, glass tables. Why didn't you just break out some glass tables? You know, it's like, because that's never been done in Impact before. That would be cool. Like, you know, introduce that. You know,
I'm in full agreement. If they'd have suddenly bust out light tubes, I'd have been over the bloody moon.
yeah, that's
because
something as well. Yeah.
this is it. Callahan does death matches. Callahan's done death matches. If he's promising to bring absolute hell to Omega, why didn't he bring absolute hell to Omega?
Like a barbed wire chair. Look, I'm not going to say that doesn't hurt. Probably hurts a great deal. But you know what I'm saying is, it's just like, okay, we've seen that before. We've seen worse before. You know, there's a barbed wire massacre like the last pay-per-view. This was a step down. They should have been like, right, there's going to be one mad spot in this that people are going to talk about, because that's how you build these matches. You build them, or else they become your spot, my spot. You grab a weapon, I hit weapon. Oh, we fall down. You know, that kind of thing. It's like, no, you build up some big spot. And if they had have been like, oh my God, it's so crazy, we can't beat them. Even keep it as it was, right? Shorten it down by 10 minutes. The Good Brothers come out and bring out the glass tables and the light tubes. And that's how it finishes. That would have been sick. But no, they didn't.
There's also the point as well, we're expected to know what's gone on AEW television, right? Because that's the way they sell the story. And we knew Jon Moxley blew up Kenny Omega and couldn't beat him.
Yep.
So how's Sami Callihan supposed to beat him in a non-blowy up type match?
Yeah, and I almost felt like there was more deathiness to his match that he had some years back with Pentagon. So
yeah, good show.
And when you do stuff like that and just hearing you guys go back and forth, I'm like, has he peaked in Impact? Because now I'm thinking like he's done this with Pentagon. He's done this with guys like Trey Miguel. This is kind of like if he was Triple H, this would be his version of Hell in a Cell, where he tries to close a guy out. But I'm like, if you ain't winning in none of them, like you might want to get a new type of match or something.
That's it.
Problem with Callahan. They gave him the belt for such a short time and then jobbed him to Tessa, who then betrayed the company. I thought this was Impact's apology to him. Like, all right, nobody else has been able to kill him. Here's your chance. Have the title. But no, I don't know why.
Wanted that. And then Khan was like, no.
I don't know why Callahan is so loyal to Impact. They have him lose all the fucking time.
Where else is he going to go?
Yeah, there is the point that he's been fired from every other job he's ever had.
You know, it's just kind of like, well, I might as well stay here, or else I'm going. As I said, a lot of people on the show looked homeless, including Callahan. Like, if I passed him at the bus station, I'd throw him money, like.
Yeah, this is the thing. Let's move on to what happened next, because after the main event, everything went quiet as they cleared the ring from the mess that they'd made, which was suspiciously cleared very quickly. But then the music of one Switchblade Jay White. The Switchblade character, funnily enough, was once rumoured to belong to Sami Callihan before Jay White came on the scene. But Jay White got the job after a disastrous World Tag League tour for Sami Callihan, which is, the way things go. Anywho, Jay White came out to confront Kenny Omega and did pull a promo on Impact Wrestling later in the week, where he said, and I quote, "I want to talk to the biggest fans of Bullet Club." And the fans started chanting, "Too sweet." And he said, no, not you. I'm talking about the Good Brothers, because they've applied to be in Bullet Club again. And actually, it's not 2015 anymore, and we want real wrestlers in Bullet Club. Which is kind of what summed up the arrival of Jay White. He made everybody else look small, and that was my take on it, really. Darragh, what's your thoughts? Because this plays into what you've been saying so far. Because now not only have you got one guy who's a top guy for the company come in and destroy everybody, you've managed to get another guy come into the company who's just laid everybody flat with a 2-minute promo, and he looks better than everybody else already. What's your thoughts?
Well, that's it. They needed that kind of reset. They needed that that leveling of the playing field as such. It's if Jay White is gonna stay in Impact, and they're gonna build the company around him as such, that's cool because he set himself up that way. But if it's a short term thing and he goes back to Japan or even jumps to AEW, then we've just replaced one bad decision with another bad decision. So I would hope that promo is like, okay, well, we're going to start building. This literally happened in WCW, by the way. I don't know if you guys are big WCW fans, but this is what happened like 20 years ago. This is where the rewind's important. That's why we do it, to kind of, so people will learn from it, but they don't. And this happened with NWO and WCW guys, where eventually the WCW guys weren't able to break past the NWO and it ended up crashing the company. So what needs to happen here is with Jay White, he needs to be like, right, if we're going to be an Impact, we're going to start building our talent up and then kind of taking it to the Elite or to the AEW guys that come in, and that's what needs to happen. So yeah, a promo is great. Promo is a good way to start, but they need to start getting some of the wins up. So the next time they meet, or the next time there is this Elite Impact exchange in the ring, Impact needs to win. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying he needs to lose the belt straight away, but definitely he needs to win. They need to start getting wins, and they're just not. They're just not getting wins. So Jay White needs to win his match, even if it is a non-title match with Kenny Omega. He needs to win against the Good Brothers. They need to start getting wins up here like really quickly and start building up some credibility, because if not, we're right back in where we go again. A promo's brilliant, but it needs to be followed in the ring.
I hope Jay brought somebody with him. That needs the. If I'm hoping that Gorillas of Destiny are available. Marcus, Gorillas of Destiny fan that you are, will you join us on this comment?
Yeah, I mean, I never turned down seeing the GOD at all, but I think overall this kind of just sums up the mess that we've been talking about for the past hour and some change. You have a guy from New Japan coming to Impact. Brilliant. I mean, Jay White's brilliant. You don't find more people at that type of heel level than Jay White's in that upper echelon. But you got a New Japan guy coming to Impact to basically chastise two guys that used to be in New Japan that want to get back in the New Japan faction that feel like AEW guys but work for Impact.
Oh man, that needs to be on a T-shirt.
Yeah, sums up the best. And the guy who Impact is looking to be their now hero is still from New Japan. Like this is the mess we're in. Like this is the kicked off the show saying the company has gotten better. Which really just shows you where it used to be in terms of that whole, I call it the cash flow positive era. No shot at Dixie, but that constant quote was hilarious. That just kind of shows you the bubble that they're in right now. Like the savior has nothing to do with Impact. Like it's, as much as I love the guy, it's Jay White. He's not going to look out for anybody more than he's going to look out for himself.
That's his entire character.
The last 3 minutes of the show was the only time the show didn't feel like an independent show.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I say look out for himself, regardless of how people feel and how cool it is, he's still a New Japan guy. So what's going to be best for him is ultimately you're going to take that momentum back the way he was. So it's like, I don't know. Again, it's the Impact came with the dodgeball, but they didn't get picked for the game.
No, I mean, this is also the thing. Before we go to John, is that Kenny Omega basically started AEW to get away from Jay White, so he's scared of him. That's one good thing they've got going for them. But equally, why isn't this happening in AEW?
It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Switchblade 316, hurrah, wreck shit.
Oh man.
John, what are your thoughts on the idea of Jay White in Impact Wrestling?
I marked the fuck out when White's music hit, because I was like, holy shit. Okay, Kenny Omega's been here, now Switchblade's here. I'm like, this is awesome. This is what Impact needs. Sure, it's not an Impact star, but screw it. Anything to topple Omega at this point, right? And yeah, it doesn't fix any problems, but I'll accept the fact that we might see Switchblade and some other Bullet Club stars tear it up on Impact, which will be fun. And yeah, they're going to probably wreck shit and leave, but again, it'll be fun. And at this point, since we've talked about WCW so much, I want Impact to just kind of jump the shark and have David Arquette win the X Division title.
Christ.
That's genius. That
Like,
works.
screw it. He wrestles. Why not?
I
Let's
just think
do it.
that just sounds like a long ploy by you, John, to somehow get him back to inevitably another match with Nick Gage.
I don't think I'll get that dream anytime soon, but just imagine that. Impact has jumped the shark that many times in its bloody history. I can't not see them just being like, oh shit, we have a chance to use David Arquette, should we? Where should we put him? How about we put him on the X Division champion? But that's like the only title other than the women's title and the women's knockout tag titles that aren't owned by someone who isn't Impact. I don't care. It's David Arquette.
Do you know the only person in Impact I desperately want to see wrestle Jay White? Deonna Purrazzo, because that would be fantastic.
That would be something.
That would be something different, and I don't think they'll ever play with it again because I think Tessa's ruined that for everybody. However, Deonna Purrazzo versus Jay White, the two most cerebral wrestlers in wrestling today, the people that thinking persons wrestlers and ultimate defensive wrestlers against each other, nothing would happen for 25 minutes and you'd be spellbound. And I think that'll be ace. But I don't think we'll see it because they've gone off the intergenderness of it all. But there we go. Anyway, so, but yes, to finish off the story of basically the Kenny Omega Jay White thing. So Kenny Omega did leave Bullet Club with the rest of the Elite at the end of their New Japan run. Essentially because they were kicked out by the Gorillas of Destiny and Haku. And, you know, if anyone's going to kick you out of anything, it's going to be Haku. And so therefore, they are no longer members of Bullet Club. Obviously, the Good Brothers left Bullet Club when they went to WWE and kind of want back in to Bullet Club and have started appearing on New Japan shows for the first time in a few years as they're on New Japan Strong. But it sounds like the Gorillas of Destiny, who broke all their records in New Japan Pro Wrestling, aren't that keen on the idea of having their former mentors back in the company because it's more competition. And it is interesting, just to go through all the comments that have been said, my favorite thing about the Good Brothers, well, the commentaries were said, the Good Brothers, actually, when they lost the tag team titles to Finn Juice a few months ago, posted that, you know, this was a great matchup. And Tama Tonga replied with, yeah, you couldn't beat the third best team in New Japan. What do you expect? Which is really the whole problem Impact Wrestling has right now. And Tama Tonga, who's a very smart man, kind of outlined the whole issue about 6 months ago. But now we can see it as foreshadowing. Aside from that, we've talked fairly long about this show, so let's have our final thoughts on what we think of the actual wrestling. Marcus, what did you think of the whole show as a whole, despite the issues we talked about?
Despite the issues, you know, I did like the show. Slammiversary is usually some of their better shows. They've kind of been making it also like you know, the surprises type of deal. And besides certain things that should be on the card and not and what have you, and TJP now being almost takes it up a letter grade. But yeah, I liked the show overall. I will say it was certainly a fun night for me. I think you know, having this discussion has been very therapeutic in a healthy way of kind of taking the visor off, or the goggles, if you will, and kind of seeing things for what they actually are. Because there's no other way kind of to put it the way, you know, we have here. But I do like a lot of stuff on this show, and you know, to John's point, you know, some of the momentum that's coming from some of these new faces. But ultimately, you know, to Darragh's point, we got to get back to these wins. You know, there's no point in starting and keeping up a narrative that you ultimately get put out of. But just on this show, I did overall enjoy this show. It certainly was better for me than a certain bank pay-per-view.
John, what are your thoughts on the overall thoughts on the show?
In the moment, it was fine. I had fun watching it. mainly because I didn't have to worry about reviewing it or anything. I could just sit back, relax, and watch and laugh at some of the train wrecks I was seeing. But the problem is it doesn't really go anywhere at the end of this. Like, sure, Switchblade appeared, but he's probably going to be a temporary fixture to make some new stories, and then he'll fuck off, and the company will be in a hole again. It was a great show, but that was just it. It was a great show. It doesn't really lead to anything.
Okay, Darragh, your final thoughts on Impact Slammiversary?
Yeah, so overall, like it was a good show until you thought about it. It's kind of like when you see Suicide Squad the first time, the first movie, where you're like, "Eh."
You all right, Darragh? Darragh?
It's ironic he talks about Suicide Squad and gets a technical fault.
Darragh! Are you there? Darragh! What's happened to him?
There
Is
are
he still
some-
online? Hey, Darragh.
Hello? Hey, I'm back. Am I back?
You cut off there. You got as far as it's like Suicide Squad, and then stopped.
Okay. Okay, grand. Yeah.
I'm like, geez, the whole Morrissey didn't get to him. Jeez.
All right. I'll go in. I know what I was saying. So yeah, it's like the original Suicide Squad, where it's fun in the moment, and then you think about it and you get more and more angry, and that's kind of what happened. It had some good matches, had some good moments. It's a good watch. It's much better than Money in the Bank. It's better than a lot of shows that I've seen in a while. Impact, I still think, has the potential to be the best, just pure wrestling that exists there today. But they have to get back to doing wins, and they need to decide what Impact is and stick with it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the fair assessment of the whole thing. I think it's cool having occasionally people dropping by to have big matches that don't really mean anything because it draws new people to the audience. But when the main feature is a bunch of guys who work for other people or appear to work for other people, then really who's watching your Impact, guys? And I think that's the issue. I think as well,
Sorry, you should know who they're working for. We shouldn't be sitting here going, Jesus, Bullet Club really feel like they work for AEW when they're contracted for Impact Wrestling. That shouldn't be a thing. You should never be watching, like, WWE go too far where they block people down. But, maybe you're like, actually, maybe that's a good idea because at least you know who they work for, and it's just, that's a weird conversation to have. That's a weird mindset to put yourself into when you're like agreeing with WWE's policies. But, this proves it. Impact Wrestling need to sort their house out and understand where they want to go, because it's nearly there. They were there before during the pandemic. They were actually there and like quality show, and now they're in danger of throwing that all away again. So
yeah, it's because we champion collaboration here, but it's like they're playing too well with others.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like New Japan used to, like, occasionally they'd drop somebody in from Noah into the G1. You knew they weren't going to win, or they might get to the final, but they weren't going to win the tournament. And it was fine because, Noah guys might watch this for a change because their guys are in this show. And then they go back to Noah. No harm, no foul. Everybody's a winner. They got some big match wins over some big names, and they went back to the home promotion. And Noah would get some guys from BJW to be in their tournament, and so on and so forth.
And
just to mix things.
And look,
that's fine.
Look, everyone getting paid and having a good time is fine too. I just want to be clear on that. But you're right.
Impact's kind of like Ralph Wiggum at the moment. Everyone's just taking advantage of him because he's got access to police lockup fireworks.
Oh, and the skeleton key. Yeah.
That's what Impact is at the moment. Everyone's like, okay, they've got all these connections to these worldwide companies. We can take advantage of this. And AEW is just kind of like, okay, we've got this little C-show we can work with now. Because that's what it's becoming in the upper card. It's just AEW versus Impact top stars, where AEW just gets to look good.
Oh man, James, the thumbnail for this show needs to be like Ralph Wiggum wearing an Impact shirt, and then like Barrett wearing an AEW shirt.
Well, I mean, real quick, does anybody have any options? Because we talked about, clearly we know the problems, but in terms of the solution, because like you said there, he has to drop that damn belt, and it can't go past Bound for Glory. I didn't think it was go past Slammiversary. Anybody got any options of who they want him to drop it to?
I just want Impact stars to appear on AEW. It's been a really one-sided thing.
Yeah.
It's like if they send Impact stars over to AEW, so it felt like a two-sided war, then sure. Like, why isn't an Impact star holding an AEW championship? Because AEW would never allow that. It just feels really one-sided.
I think Saban, actually, if you're going for pillars of the company, you've been there forever, you've kind of just spoiled Eddie Edwards losing that match. You can't really do that for a bit. So I think Saban's had the big win over Moose. So therefore, I think Saban gets a big long bill to Bound for Glory and wins the championship in the manner he won against Bully Ray after being the babyface that got beat down forever, and then pulls out a big victory unexpectedly, and the crowd goes nuts because they're pulling for the guy who's been the guy forever. Or Cowboy James Storm, who was always supposed to be the proper heavyweight champion and only ever got a 6-day run. And I think it'd be worthwhile with him doing it as well. But I think it has to be a pillar of Impact Wrestling, like a 20-year guy, to be able to kind of have the impact, if you'll pardon the pun, that they want.
The most logical person, it would be AJ Styles, but obviously he's not going anywhere. So yeah, I think James Storm would be a good show.
Yeah, it's either going to be AJ Styles, Bobby Roode, or Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
Swan, though, that's the thing. They'll probably just come full circle and Swan will beat him.
Maybe.
I don't hate it. It's all right, but I think we kind of. You see, this is the thing. It's like, and it's like pertains to what Darragh said. I care about the X division and I care about the women's division. Really not that bothered about the men's division in Impact Wrestling. And I don't see why don't they just push Darragh Purrazzo to the moon, like make her the focus of your show. Or make the women's division, because it's more exciting, the focus of your show. Well, that's just me.
That's it. Like, you know, I think what brought them to the dance was that, and that's what everybody liked. And then when they kind of went into just being like everything else, they just default to being everything else. You know.
I think they followed the wrestling logic. Well, it's only heavyweight men that can draw, and that's the way it's always been. So that's the way it should always be.
Just
when
send
they
Jordan Grace out there to murder him.
Yeah,
that would be the coolest thing ever.
See, that's the thing. Pertaining to what you said earlier, Darragh, about the number of people who look homeless. All the women have individual characters, and I can tell what Tasha Steelz is about by the way she dresses and conducts herself. I can tell what Jordan Grace is by the way she dresses and conducts herself. I can tell the story of Darragh Purrazzo by the way she walks to the ring. All the guys, not all of them, but like the ones that just don't have any personality, and there's so many of them, that's an issue. They need to address that. Because again, when a guy comes in from an outside company, it doesn't look like they can beat him.
Look, the thing about it is, guys coming in from the outside company, I actually kind of hate it because it's like it's never done right. They're always just getting over because who they were elsewhere. What's special about a talent like the women? What's special about the women is they're superstars. You know?
Yeah,
they're literally like, there you go. The women know how to be wrestlers. You guys don't. You know, and that's the problem with Impact. It's like they go, and then when they finally get there, they pick up the cast-offs from WWE. They're like, oh, come on now. Come on, look, here's all the belts. So, all right, yeah, there's money. Right, there we go. And then you end up with what's your man? Not Zack Ryder, the other guy.
Myers.
Yeah, that guy, the other edgehead. It's like, he's not a star. He never was. What are you doing? Fuck off. You know, it's really annoying. It's just like, you weren't a star in WWE for a reason. Go away. Like,
These facts. These the facts.
Yeah. I mean, Cardona at least has talent and has a personality.
Yeah.
Myers is a good, solid worker, and he's going to be Andy guy to have around, but he's not a guy you build a company around or build a feud around, or And
look, it's okay to have the journeyman wrestlers were a thing for a reason, and I respect them, and I think it's great, right? And you need those guys, but you don't build companies around them. You don't make them your top guy. You don't sacrifice it. They're there to get the other guys over. Again, WWE go way too far with this, but at least there's some kind of consistency behind it. With Impact TNA, they're like, oh wow, they were on WWE. Oh my god, did you see? No, quiet, Bobby Roode. Don't go away now. Quiet AJ Styles. Don't get uppity, and then you end up losing them. It's like, they need to understand what happened here, and they got it. They got it for about 6 months during the pandemic, and now they've lost it again because they're swindled. They're like the young actress that goes to LA and she ends up being a prostitute on the street because she was sold to be a superstar somewhere. That's what's going to happen to Impact again.
That's a bit harsh. That's a bit dark. But yeah,
look, I'm concerned. I love Impact. I love Impact. It's just I've seen what happened before. They've been abused by everyone from Hulk Hogan to no shade to Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett's a great guy, but everyone had to go at Impact. It's like, come on, will you just be good?
Fair enough. I think on that note, we should close the show. And thank you for listening to the Truthfully Show and the Wrestling Rewind on this Slammiversary special. I'd like to thank our guests today, Mr. Marcus Green of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Where can we find you, sir?
Oh man, always a pleasure. You can find me on Twitter. That's at Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID. Hit me up about anything we talked about, anything else, and just be sensible, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
There you go. Be nice, everyone. Just saying. Mr. John Dinsdale, indeed, the editor of Death at Steel Chair Wrestling Magazine. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Twitter at John Deathman. That is the gateway to hell to find anything relating to my writing, my opinions, which probably aren't quite as explosive as Darragh's, to be honest. I've actually been outdone. Like, holy shit. But yeah, John Deathman, there's writings, reviews, opinions. Hell, I'm even doing film reviews now because Letterboxd is a thing.
There you go. And finally, of the Wrestling Rewind, and a man who is strong in his opinions, will you please tell us where you are? Can we find you on the internet, Darragh?
I apologize for flying off the handle there. But, I get passionate about things. See,
how much coffee have you had today?
I've had a lot. I'm not going to lie to you.
There you go. All right.
At least you're getting passionate about proper things and not just Master Wato's stupid outfits.
Usually Dave is able to keep me in control here, but he's not here, so we blame him. And send him your abuse at #DaveStevens, #SaveDave. But if you want to reach me, you can at DarraghWV on Twitter. I usually talk about either wrestling or hacking, so they're the two things. If you like those things, you can follow me there. And of course, the Wrestling Rewind every Friday, about 11:30 Irish time. And then it's up on the True Penny channel as well every week. At the moment, we're getting ready to go through the rest of our WCW run, but when WWE and AEW stuff shows up, we jump into that as well. So, if you have anything you want to talk about, reach us on Twitter and we'll talk about it.
Thank you very much for listening to the Troopany Show today. My name's James Troopany. You can find me at Sheriff Lone Star on Twitter. You can find the show Troopany Show on Twitter and on Facebook and Patreon, where you can keep Troopany Show free forever. For everyone at the Troopany Show. That's it for us. Next week we might have that indeed Dave Stevens on a show with me, which I keep teasing, but then good wrestling stuff happens, and there was a New Japan show today, so we should probably review that. And then I might hold off Dave till the week after.
I hope you give him abuse, James. That's my hope.
We bonded actually.
Oh.
We had a really good bonding session. There was a lot of happiness and joy, and we talked about the greatness of Les Kellett.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was emotional. But anyway, yes, you'll find out when you listen to the Troopany Show either next week or the week after. I can't leave it too long, but I'm desperate to get the show out. But really cool wrestling stuff keeps happening, and there was a big show from the Tokyo Dome today in front of about 12 people, which you probably should review. Anywho, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.
You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5pm to 6pm, and then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media radio network.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.